everybody, welcome back. This is going to be part 3 of our little Defender clone, and what we're going to do this time is we're going to add a background to this and get it scrolling. Basically think of old movies or old cartoons or whatever. You make it look like something is moving by moving the background behind it. So in order for this to work, we're going to have our background loop. So I'm going to need an image. I'm going to need to set it up so that my image can not have obvious seams in it, not be a jarring thing, so it looks like it smoothly loops behind the player. Alright, so image. Where can I possibly get an image from? Well, since I'm doing educational stuff here, I have some leeway. If you're doing a commercial thing, you have no leeway. You can make it yourself or you can buy it, basically. But I'm doing a commercial project, or I'm sorry, not commercial, I'm doing this educational thing. So what I did is I just went to Google Images and I just searched for cityscape background scrolling or whatever, and this one right here, I like that one. Yeah, that's the one I want. So I went ahead and downloaded that one and have it on my desktop, so I am now ready to go ahead and import that. So let me go ahead and hold on, let me pause something. Well, no, I don't need to pause anything. Just hit enter on that. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and import my picture, that background I got. So I'm going to drop it down here into my project. And I don't like that name, so I'm going to go ahead and select it, press F2, and I'm going to rename it background. Alright. Next up, things are starting to get a little, it's not really bad yet, but it could get bad. So I'm going to do some organizing down here. So I'm going to go with my create folder. I'm going to make a folder for my prefabs, and I'm going to put the player's laser in there. I'm going to make a folder for my materials, like so. I'm going to go ahead and put my player laser material in there, and then I'm also going to make a folder for, oops, not C# script. No, we don't want to do that. I'm going to make a folder for create folder images, for lack of a better thought at the moment. I'm going to put my background in there. Okay, now by default, my background has come in as a sprite, which for what I'm going to do, this is going to work just fine. There's a bunch of ways I can do a scrolling background. I can do it as a texture, make a material and put that material on an object and move the object. I'm just going to kind of simple approach here. So I'm going to pull this background out into my scene out here, and something like that. Okay, and I'm going to kind of line this up the way that I might want it to be. So let's see here. Let's go with that, and kind of maybe zoom in a little bit here. Move it up on my Y just a little bit. Yeah, maybe something like that. Maybe move it over here on the X till we get to the edge of our screen. Let's see, 6.4, 6.3, probably went too far. 5, 6, 7. Okay, so there I've got some blue showing through, so I'm going to go back to a 7. Alright, right there. Let's go a little bit further than that. Well, I don't know. My ground looks pretty solid there. Let's zoom in maybe. And let me pull this out so I can possibly see it a little bit better. Okay, so I can see that I've definitely got blue showing through there. So trying to get this lined up best. Yeah, let's put you back there. Scale back out, like so. Okay. What does the other side look like? It looks like they kind of line up pretty close, huh? Okay. Getting a feel for what this needs to look like. So let's go with a 6.38. Oops, I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? 3.6, 3.5. Maybe 3.4. Okay, maybe one more. 3.3. Okay. All right, so there is how I want this lined up. Okay, now to get this to work, right, I'm going to go ahead and kind of start off here. I'm going to add a component and go to my PlayMaker FSM, And I'm going to call this thing scroll, okay, because this is going to handle my scrolling. So I'll go ahead and edit this, and we're going to go in here. We're going to have state 1 is just going to be a scroll, and all it's going to do is move to the left at some speed that I want it to move at. So we know how to do that. That's going to be a translate. I'm going to want it to move to the left, which is going to be -x, and I'm going to go ahead and use world. So I'm moving based on the world's coordinates. My new variable is going to be my speed, like so. We're going to do this every frame. Alright, so let's see what we got here. One more thing, let's go to our variables. Let's make speed an inspector so we can adjust it out here. So I'm going to, what do you think, maybe a -1. Let's start with that. See what our background looks like here. Okay, so now you get the illusion that our ship is flying. Is -1 too fast? Maybe -0.8, 0.7, 0.6, maybe a 0.6. So it looks like the city's a little farther in the background, right? Maybe a -0.5, whatever. Okay, so next up, see, we eventually come to an end here, okay? Now, what we're going to want to do is, in order to loop, we want it to start over where it was. Now, what you do when you start over is you just snap it back here. So you can imagine if I did this, well, that's not going to look right. So what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead, in order to help this scroll, so we decided -0.5, well, I'm sorry, I decided -0.5 was the speed I liked. I'm going to take this background, and I'm going to call this background 01, so I can keep track of these. And I'm going to make another background, so I'm going to select that, do a Control D on it, okay? And I'm going to call that one background 02. Alright, now background 02 needs to be lined up. Let me get game out of the way here so we can see this better. It's going to have to be lined up on the edge here, right? Now, a couple of things to think about. We can line it up like it is. So let me just kind of start moving my X over until we get it to line up. 35.7. Let's go with a 35.6. I mean, I could do that, right? That's not bad. That's pretty cool. So let's see what this looks like now. Now I want background 2 to follow background 1, so I'm going to attach background 2 to background 1. Now notice when I copied it, background 2 kept the state machine. I don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Okay, so now let's see what we have. We'll go ahead to our split view here so we can kind of see when they're getting close here. Go ahead and run this. Okay, so now my ship is flying along. Woohoo! I'm flying and I'm shooting stuff, and yeah, I'm just that kind of defender guy. Now my ship disappears down here, but we're going to tweak that in just a minute. So what I'm kind of looking for is, is there anything jarring going on with my background? Am I seeing a seam that is like, holy crap, what just happened? Yeah, I didn't notice anything. Right about here is where our new one starts, right? Now, here's the catch. What we want to do is we want to figure out when this second one is lined up to the edge here the way that that first one was. Remember, what I did was I took this first one and I made a copy and I just slid it over. So if I get it so that I know when that building right there with that single light, where is it? Where is it? I'm looking. This building right here. See this pattern? Right there it is. And right here it is. I want to know when this is lined up with the edge of the screen, because when that happens, I can snap this one back over there. And it'll look the exact same because they're lined up entirely. So that's what I'm trying to figure out here. A couple ways to figure this out. And I'm going to kind of try to go off the potentially easiest way, or what could be the easiest way. Alright, so first of all, let me grab background 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of paper. I'm going to write something down. So background 2 lines up with background 1 at 29.27. I'm going to write that down so I don't forget it. Or actually, you know what? Well, I'll write it down. I already wrote it down. I'm going to move background 2 straight up. Now what I want to do is I want to know either when this one is completely on the edge of the screen or when this one is completely gone, either way. So here's how we're going to do this. Let's go ahead, run this game like so. We're going to let it go at a speed of, this speed. It's a little slow, but that's going to be okay. It's not really going to be the end of the world here. Eventually it'll get here. I should really increase the speed, but I didn't. So we have our nice scrolling background back there. It's behind the player. Okay, here we are. Okay, so I'm moving this, right? Now notice what's happening here. I can see the background 1's position, okay? But background 2 isn't changing this. These numbers are relative to where this is. So it stays relative to this one. So that's why I went up here to look at background 1. And I'm going to go ahead and unpause this. And as we get closer to the edge of the screen, we'll see if we can't figure out this moment that lines up there. We're getting there. Alright, let's pause. And we'll kind of start snapping this forward just a little bit. Now here's a potential, well, let me not say that. Let's just do this way. And get there, get there, get there. I'd probably increase this just a little bit more. Boom, boom, boom. One more. One more. Right there it is. Or we could go one more. So we're looking at negative 22.9. Okay. Negative 22.9. If I do one more here, let's look at that. Boom. That's 0.92. 22.92. I could do one more. 0.93. I'm really kind of liking it like right around here, 0.94. 22.94. Okay, so we're going to have to do a little bit of fiddling to get this, to get everything lined up the way that we want. So first of all, background 2, I can get rid of this Y that I've got there, put it back down to 0. Go back to my scene view, go back to background 1, and we're going to go into here. Now, I want you to notice, background 1, its starting position is 6.33. I'm going to write that down because I'm going to need that. Alright, let's come here. Just kind of thinking in my head for just a second. Yeah, I could probably do it that way. Okay, anyway, I'm going to add a state, and this state is going to be reset position. Once it's finished, it's going to go back and continue scrolling. And what it's going to do, pretty straightforward, do an action browser set position, and we're going to set the X position to be, I have an exact value, 6.33 is what I want. Okay, there we go. Finished, and it goes back there. Alright, so now I need to know, when do I come over here? Well, first we're going to need an event. So I'm going to create an event. I'm going to say start reset. Come back to my state. Right click on scroll, add transition, start reset, bring it over here. Okay, so now how do I know when this should happen? Let's do an action browser. Let's do a get position. Basically, we're doing the exact same thing that we did for the what was it, for keeping the player on the screen. Basically, I'm going to get my X position every frame. I'm going to do an action browser, float, compare. So notice these same actions, I'm just using these same actions over and over. So it's one of those things of, as we really begin to understand the basics of programming, suddenly we're able to do a whole lot of things because we're just using these same things over and over. Okay, now then, let me see. So I had written down roughly like 22.94 for where I might want to reset. So I'm thinking probably right around there. That seems like that should be a pretty good idea. And another way I can kind of know that, um, let me just write this down. 22.94. Okay, that's what I'm going to put right here. I'm going to put 22 point. I'm going to do 22.94. If it is less than that, I'm sorry, this has to be negative. Home negative. If it is less than negative 22.94, we're going to start our reset. Bang, go reset. We're going to check this every frame. Okay, so now let's start looking at this and seeing how this is moving, see if we like what it's doing or not. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, just let that scroll in the background, and see what we think about, we're basically going to be looking for some jerkiness as this gets down around negative 22, see if we don't like how it is down there. I'm going to have to tweak my spaceship, but that's cool. Probably do that in the next video. I'm going to have to do a couple things. I don't want them flying into the ground, for instance. I don't want them jumping into the ground, but we'll do those tweaks. I think we'll take those on in the next video. Try to keep these relatively, well, I don't know about short, but okay, so we're still scrolling. We're at I don't need to be zoomed in that much. It'll look much better if I don't zoom in. There we go. I don't get the pixelation I was getting. Okay, so we're at a negative 17, negative 18. Flying my ship. Just flying my ship. So I'm going to watch down here. Did you notice? Look right here. It reset. Did you see any jerkiness here? So we now have a scrolling background, smooth scrolling background. There wasn't a moment where it's like, what just happened? There wasn't that jarring moment. And I'm going to go ahead and break this in just a second so that you can see that jarring moment that I was trying to avoid. But I want this to run one more time so that you can kind of see as we get down to negative 21 or so, and then we'll focus on this again and see how smooth that just resets and keeps on scrolling. And if we were to go ahead and split this out so you can see it over here as well. Over here you'll be able to see it jump when it resets itself. Oh, get over here. So we're down to negative 17. We're getting there. There we go. So we're watching. See it reset? See how smooth that was? We have a scrolling background. Wonderful. That's nice. So let me show you a jarring scrolling background. So for my scroll right here, remember 22.94. That's what worked. So I'm going to circle it on my piece of paper. I'm going to change this to be 0. Okay. So let's watch this. Let's see if you notice when it jumps this time, and see what you think about it jumping this time. See if it's a little bit annoying or not. And then I'll do one last thing before we wrap this video up. See it reset? That was terrible, right? So that's the point of that scrolling background. That's why we're wanting to line those up and figure out exactly when does this need to happen. So this should be negative 22.94, like so. Okay, now I want to do one last thing. Something I was kind of talking about roughly as I was looking at things. Okay, so background 2 is located here. Background 1 has an offset from X of this. And you might be thinking, so what? Who really cares about these things? Well, it's amazing what you can do with math. If I take background 2, which is at 29.27, right? 29.27, and if I were to subtract, we're back that offset of background 1, so we're going to do a minus 6.33. Well, what do you know? There's the number for where I had to reset, 22.94. Just slap a negative in front of it. I'm done. Another way that I could have done this is my 6.33, and I want to move to the left, which is going to be negative 29.27, and that is negative 22.94. What am I doing? Why do I want to do that? Remember, this right, or this background 2 is moved to the right 22 or 29.27 units to the right. So that means that this thing will get to the end here. Without having a whiteboard to draw this on and circle stuff, I think I'm just confusing you. Okay, scrolling background, cool stuff, wonderful, a lot of fun. All right, so yeah, that's into this one. Next part, I'm going to tweak my materials on this and also make them so he can't fly down on the ground, but we'll do that in part 4. Okay, so questions, just drop them down below.